In 1877, Henry McCarty, already using the name William H. Bonney and known as Billy the Kid, is seen in the New Mexico Territory, rising in the world of crime. The moment precedes the Lincoln County War and marks the phase in which the young gunslinger consolidated his reputation, moving between ranches, saloons, and local authorities. Around 1890, two sex workers pose in a brothel in Alaska, then the frontier of the United States. Westward expansion had brought crowds of male migrants to mining zones. The demographic imbalance fostered houses run by madams who standardized fees, lodging, and internal rules, serving local economies. In 1885, a company of Texas Rangers poses in a studio with standardized uniforms and weaponry, a sign of discipline and readiness for field service. The state jurisdiction force patrolled the border with Mexico, repressed gangs, escorted prisoners, and intervened in land disputes, shaping central episodes of the Old West. In 1878, people walked down a street in Dodge City, Kansas, on the Great Plains axis. Like Deadwood, the town was consolidating as a frontier emblem. Saloons and brothels multiplied, and the reputation as a dangerous place attracted gunslingers and robbers. Local traditions mention visits from Billy the Kid and Jesse James during this period. Patrick Floyd Jarvis Garrett, known as Pat Garrett, was sheriff in Lincoln County, New Mexico Territory. He became famous for killing William H. Bonney, Billy the Kid, in 1881. Years later, on February 29, 1908, he was shot dead near Las Cruces. For many, he became a symbol of the sheriffs of the Old West in the United States. Around 1880, in Miles City, Montana, a group of men gathers in front of the saloon after a hard day on the frontier. The road was long, the pockets light, and leisure fit in few options. Drink a shot, chat, close deals, hear the news. The scene shows how male sociability sustained those expanding settlements. Around 1900, businessmen posed beside the 20-mule team, two wagons pulled by 20 mules that carried borax from Harmony Borax Works in Death Valley to the railroad in Mojave. The journey, about 165 miles, could take up to 10 days and reveals the harsh logistics of mining in California's West under extreme heat and desert aridity. May 1862. A settler family gathers in front of the log house they built in what was then the Nebraska Territory, years before it became a state, 1867, and before the creation of Custer County, 1877. Daily clothing and farming utensils can be seen lined up near the door. Sitting Bull, Hunkpapa Lakota leader, was a key figure of resistance in the Great Plains in the 19th century. In 1876, he united Sioux and Cheyennes and gathered thousands to confront the 7th U.S. Cavalry Regiment, winning at Little Bighorn. After the battle, he went to Canada, where he lived for some years, and pressured by hunger, returned to the U.S. in 1881. Around 1907, cowboys in hats and dusty boots gather at the counter of a bar in Tascosa, Oldham County, in the Texas Panhandle, in the Wooden Saloon. They drink whiskey, exchange banter, and recount the day, while the bartender serves and keeps order. The scene shows how the pause after cattle work marked social life in the West in the early 20th century. Around 1870, migrants crossed the American West in wagon trains, guided by families and teamsters. They follow known trails, cross plains, and reach a recent settlement with no visible name, seeking cheap land and work. The scene shows frontier expansion, new stopping points, and settlement routes in formation. In 1908, hunters pose in front of a simple cabin in rural Arizona with their dogs. They wear field clothes and carry bolt-action rifles. In front, they display the game taken. The scene points to seasonal hunting in the West, a common practice in the early decades of the 20th century, marked by camping and camaraderie among friends in the region. Around 1905, water service workers cross a dirt street with an animal-drawn wagon. Two men push the vehicle, another holds the reins and keeps the course. In the large barrel goes the water that supplied homes and businesses at the time. The scene shows how the city managed before plumbing networks became common. In 1875, Jesse James, a former Confederate guerrilla from the Civil War, became the face of the James Younger Gang, alongside his brother Frank. He robbed banks and trains and was linked to murders in Missouri, spending years as a fugitive. With a high bounty, his end came in 1882. In his home in St. Joseph, Robert Ford, an accomplice, shot him in the back while he adjusted a picture. In 1893, workers at a point in the Oklahoma Territory received running water for the first time. The settlement was new, and the network arose from excavations, pipes, and coordinated shifts. At the center of the frame, the water tower rises, designed to maintain pressure and provide regularity in the daily supply that sustained the nascent community. In 1904, a Dine Navajo group crosses Canyon de Chelly in northeastern Arizona within the Navajo Nation. The passage follows trails used to drive herds, visit relatives, and attend markets. The period marks changes. Federal policies and trading posts altered routes and rhythms. At the beginning of the 20th century, passers-by move along Main Street in Manhattan, Nye County, in Nevada's high desert. The settlement was born in 1867, after the discovery of silver. In 1905, the discovery of gold drew a new wave of people. In a short time, more than 4,000 residents settled and opened shops, inns, saloons, and newspapers. Seen from 1900 in an unidentified location in the American West, a group of cowboys take a meal break around the ranch wagon, chuck wagon. Wide-brimmed hats, neckerchiefs, and holsters show the work on the trails and the camp rhythm that organized the day during the annual cattle drive season there. In 1873, residents pose in front of the church built on rocks in the pueblo of Zuni, then New Mexico Territory, now Cibola County. The scene is part of the Wheeler Survey, carried out by the U.S. government, and records the territory where the Zuni, Shiwi people have lived for millennia, uniting the pueblo's layout with the arid landscape. In 1892, in a Pennsylvania brothel, a sex worker poses seated in the room where she receives clients. The setting shows a simple bed, bare walls, and few objects, typical of houses near mines and railroads. The scene helps to understand how, in the Gilded Age, sex work functioned as urban income in a rapidly industrializing country. In 1890, a large Sioux camp in South Dakota appears arranged in a semicircle, with tents marking kinship groups and paths used through the seasons. The Lakota, Dakota, and Nakota peoples maintained exchanges and diplomacy. After the 1889 agreements, the scene suggests forced relocations under federal policies and the division of tribal lands. Olive Oatman was a young pioneer. In 1851, at age 14, she saw her parents killed in an attack by the Yavapai in present-day Arizona. She and her 7-year-old sister Mary Ann were enslaved and, about a year later, handed over to the Mojave in exchange for horses. With the Mojave, she received facial tattoos. Mary Ann died there. In 1856, Olive was rescued near Fort Yuma. In 1869, a native man observes the first transcontinental railroad, newly completed at Promontory Summit, Utah, which connected California to the eastern United States. For urban elites and companies, it was a sign of integration and profit. For many native nations, it brought loss of lands, weakening of sovereignty, and rupture of community and cultural ties. In 1878, in Dodge City, Kansas, workers stacked buffalo hides in an overcrowded yard. The hide boom grew with railroads and long-range rifles, attracting hunters who slaughtered herds en masse and left carcasses on the plains. The hides went by rail car to industrial tanneries and then for export to the coast in Europe. In 1887, a settler family in Nebraska gathers in front of the facade of their frontier home. They wear work clothes and, to mark the moment, Sunday pieces. Children at the center, adults at the edges. The straight framing and daylight suggest an itinerant studio and the desire to record life as it was in that period. California Gulch, near Leadville, Colorado, in 1880. The district shifted from placer gold in the 1860s to carbonate ore with silver. Shafts and tunnels became routine, small smelters treated the metal, and narrow-gauge railroads connected the field to trade routes, fueling Leadville's urban boom in the mountain region.